lesson in life to be who you need to be. Don't look other people, just be happy with who you are. Don't follow the crowd of the masses, be yourself and you'll be okay. Don't look other people, just be happy with who you are. Don't follow the crowd of the masses, be yourself and you'll be okay. Just be happy with who you are. Just be happy with who you are. Just be happy with who you are. Just be happy with who you are.
Hey class, sorry I'm late. Traffic was pretty horrendous this morning. Just let me put this down first before I carry on with my introduction. Here we go. Okay, welcome back from winter break. This is Classics in Western Philosophy 101. My name is Professor Triggerz McKnickers. So, pep rally after class? Some kind of cultural appreciation day? Does anyone here speak English by any chance?
Siwao, ta, moteksoma, meshika, tlatoani, inno shochiu, inno kuikao, in matsin, in motepetsin.
Intercom! Page University President!
President's office.
Mr. Whittle Massengill, please.
Mr. Whittle Massengill is indisposed at the moment.
Till when?
Indefinitely. So, whatever grievances you may have, Professor McKnickers, you may address them to me.
Poopsie, is that you?
That is pro-tempore to you, Triggerz.
Oh, cut the pretentious crap and just tell me what happened to our beloved, spineless bureaucrat, please.
He's undergoing sensitivity training after a transphobic incident.
Oh, of course he is. All right, what went down this time?
He incorrectly referred to me as Zir.
But isn't Zir one of several of your list of preferred pronouns?
Yes, but it's Monday, Professor McKnickers.
Oh, the day of the robe can't come quickly enough, I swear to God.
Wait, what did you just say?
Poopsie! Who are the students enrolled in my class right now?
They're dreamers, Professor.
No, I mean, where do they come from?
Come from? This was their land long before your ancestors stole
Look,
it.
you're all wearing masks, so I can't even tell what race they are, let alone ethnicity.
Their race? The human race, Mr. Eugenics.
Their tribe! What is their tribal affiliation?
They are the first and real Americans, Mr. Xenophobe.
Look, for the love of God, I just need to know what language they speak. Can you, at the very least, tell me that much so that I can, properly carry on with the course? I mean, isn't that why they're here? To learn stuff?
They are here because our campus is now a sanctuary city.
Further explanation would help, thanks.
They are Mexican refugees.
Mexican refugees?
Yes.
Really?
Refugees from Mexico. They are fleeing from religious persecution, and we're preventing your beloved Gestapo ICE agents from dragging them away into some Trumpian death camp.
And is there a reason why these Mexicans don't speak Spanish?
Border security is separating children of color from their mothers as we speak, and the only thing you care about is a monolinguistic America?
Oh, funny how you should mention women and children when there are only young men of fighting age in my classroom.
Okay, that's it. First, you're making their race an issue.
Yep.
Now you're assuming their gender and age identity.
Okay.
I can't even continue with this conversation with you any longer. And be assured that the president will hear about this once you return. And as you are well aware, you are up for administrative review within the next couple of weeks. Now goodbye, Professor McKnickers.
Same old shit. Got it. Okay, later! You slandering sack of left-leaning weasel tongues. did the library go?
You may enter.
Hello, Craig. Why are you sitting behind the president's desk?
My last birthday, I got a new helmet.
That's nice, Craig.
It works really good. And I'm happy.
Uh-huh. Is there anyone else here?
Craig sits behind that desk because now he belongs behind it.
Really?
Under my advisory, the student council casted a ballot for an interim president until Mr. Whittle Massagill returns.
And you're telling me that Craig here received a majority vote?
A unanimous vote.
Unanimous? Because you think he was the most qualified among us?
Because he ranks as the most marginalized on campus.
Oh, Jesus, why am I not surprised?
Due to the genetic damage he's faced with, caused by fetal typhoid syndrome, the doctors are uncertain of his sex, his race, even his taxonomic placement. Do you have a problem with all this, Professor?
The professors at the school are my friends. They put me in a room and they have me draw pictures.
That's interesting, Craig.
Poopsie really likes the squiggly ones that I make.
Uh-huh.
They teach me things, and then they wave bye on the bus. When I get on the bus, it's little, yellow.
Look, I sympathize with the fact that Craig here was born with a 2-7 offsuit in his hand, but don't you think that... Hey, wait a second, what is your role in all of this?
Due to his many challenges, I speak on his behalf.
Oh, you do? Well, how politically convenient for you.
Now, what exactly does that mean?
It means that feminists like to wax poetic about social equality, while their every action seems to be merely a selfish power grab.
You know, I'm really getting...
If I had one wish, it was so I could be white.
That's fascinating, Craig.
Here's the reason. When you're white, you can change color by turning red from the sun.
Very powerful. Yep. Some deep stuff.
You know, I'm really getting tired of your open contempt for feminists in every episode.
Oh, on the contrary, Poopsie. I'm rather empathetic of their suffering.
Oh, really?
Yep. In fact, I even made a psychological flowchart detailing their tragic makings.
Well, this should be interesting.
Quite.
Triggerz! What do you want? Why are you here?
So yesterday, I spent my entire class period trying to communicate with the so-called Mexican refugees, and although it was mostly fruitless, I was able to at least figure out who they call themselves.
Which is?
The Tenochca.
Well, this is a great start. We should now begin anthropological research.
Actually, I'm already familiar with the people by that very name. You know, I studied Mesoamerican history in college.
Even better news. You will spearhead our cause to not only preserve their culture, but to teach awareness and sensitivity to the other students.
Well, that's just it. I am a little concerned with how well preserved their culture really is. So far, their manner of dress and language are rather authentic.
No need for concern. We could also teach Tenochca their own history, in order to reclaim further roots.
No, that's not where my concern lies. The Tenochca were not known for playing well with others, to say the very least.
Fear and prejudice are to be expected in every newly diverse society, Professor McKnickers, especially between groups speaking different languages. But most of these schisms can be chalked up to a simple misunderstanding. But these misunderstandings were historically exploited by dominant white Western powers, unfairly portraying the native peoples as barbaric, ignorant, and savage, so that the white man could justify his racial oppression and cultural bias.
The Tenochca were a warrior society known to capture outsiders for the purposes of slavery, ritualistic sacrifice, and religious cannibalism.
I'm sure it's not as bad as you make it sound, Professor. You're rather old school when it comes to your historical narrative, even to the point of traditional white bias and hypocrisy.
Well, I'm not sure how one could spin the eating of one's own murder victims to sound far worse than as it already stands, but go ahead and make your case.
Well, you've recently started attending church every Sunday again, haven't you?
I have.
And at your church, you receive the Eucharist?
I do.
And thus, you partake in what is called transubstantiation, do you?
Actually, we call it consubstantiation, but please continue.
Well, there you go. You're no different from the Tanachka, are you?
And how do you figure?
You also indulge in cannibalism as a religious sacrament. Checkmate, Triggerz.
Wow. Now who am I to argue such striking similarities? But let's specifically break down what we do in my church, shall we?
Sure.
Okay, well, you see, after the sermon, my pastor passes around a loaf of bread that his wife baked the night prior, and each of us takes a bite-sized morsel. Then after that, he passes around a pewter goblet filled with grape juice, to wash it down with a single swallow.
Okay.
But you want to know what we don't do?
And what's that?
Murder. It's just Welch's and baked goods, not the neighbor down the street. It's all merely symbolic, really.
I'm not allowed to see my mom anymore.
Oh boy.
The police came and they took her diabetes needles. And she was crying.
By the way, these Tanachka, they're also better known by a different name.
Which is what?
The Aztec.
Wait, weren't they once thought to be extinct?
They were.
The best news ever. Like the wilderness reclaiming the ruins of a once flourishing civilization, Aboriginal nations will defiantly rise again like a phoenix from the ashes of fading colonial empires to sever the evil white clutches from this continent once and for all. And I will have a hand in all of it.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt your messianic wankfest here, but you had mentioned earlier how your refugees were religiously persecuted back home?
Yes, but I don't have any details.
Then I'm going to inquire among the Mexican students to see if they know anything about it.
Half-breeds.
Wait, what?
Make haste. Then report ASAP.
Yeah, see ya. Oh, before I go, would you happen to know where the library went?
The Aztec requested permission to build a house of worship, and they required emergency construction materials to build it in time for the early spring festival. In honor of Xipe Totec, I think that's how they pronounce it.
That library was a beautiful representation of early Western classical revival architecture. Why couldn't you have selected that postmodern, brutalist monstrosity we call a social science center? It looks like a Soviet scrap pile of cement blocks to begin with!
Gosh speed, Professor.
God damn it! We can never keep nice things around here! First, they replaced the late Renaissance oil paintings in the art gallery with menstrual blood doodles. Now this.
I suspect that he'll become a bigger problem for us in the coming days. But we must remain vigilant. For social justice and political correctness must prevail.
I have really fond memories of swimming in the summer, and
That's nice, Craig.
my uncle would watch from the distance and take pictures. I never got to look at them. I don't know, because I was blindfolded the whole time. They took his pictures when they arrested him, but I don't know why. I like eggs!
Would you just shut up, retard?
Until you hear what I have to say! Unless you plan to sustain yourself on the office supply of tab and jelly bellies until the end of time, you'll have to eventually traverse this hallway to reach the outside world. Or maybe you can just parkour your ass out the 4th floor window, I don't know.
Triggerz, I'm a busy person. What in Jahannam do you want this time?
My visit concerns the Mexican students.
Which ones? The mongrels or the purebloods?
What the fuck? Not the Chinachka!
Go on.
Yep, okay, but I'm the one they call racist here, sure.
What about them, Professor?
They are blowing up the university student forums, expressing their fear and resentment towards your harboring of the new arrivals.
And why would they do this?
They speak of masked demons back home, hiding within secret caves of Monte Tlaloc, kidnapping and eating the locals of Mexico City.
And what does this have to do with the Aztec?
Well, they are the masked demons. They are the cause of all those reported kidnappings and cannibalism, which is what brought upon their so-called religious persecution and eventual exile from Mexico.
And what is your proof of this?
Well, you told me yesterday that the Aztecs built their temple to honor Xipe Totec, the god of life cycles and agricultural seasons, did you not?
Yeah?
Well, this means that the early spring festival you referred to is a ceremony called Talaka Shipala Listli, which is annually performed in hopes of a bountiful harvest.
Well, it sounds like a commune of peaceful farmers living in harmony with Mother Nature.
Yeah, doesn't it? Except that I haven't described what this ceremony entails yet.
And now, for another exciting episode of Get Woke, White Boy! Hello, kids. We've all heard the tragic story before. Once upon a time, there were small tribes dotting the American landscape. Each one was distinct, but all were living in peace amongst each other and in balance with the wilderness around them. Sort of like one big hippie commune, stretching from sea to shining sea, and from one frozen pole to the other. That is, of course, until Whitey showed up. But have you ever stopped to think of what we, in the modern world, have been robbed of, now that the old ways are long gone? All those primitive yet noble customs and Arcadian wisdoms that fell in the volley of musket fire and, well, sneezes. Well, wonder no more, for we are about to enlighten you on a particular Aztec festival known as Talaka Shipala Listli, a ceremony dedicated to the early spring rain and the bountiful harvesting season to come. But how does one participate in such a festival without being an Aztec, you may ask? Well, you're in luck, because the Aztec want to invite outsiders such as yourself to become their guests of honor. And by invite, I mean barge into your home, beat you over the head with a large wooden club, and drag you hog-tied back to the temple. Congratulations! You are now a living gift of bone and blood in appeasement to their god Xipe Totec, also known as the Flayed One, the god of spring, the patron god of seas, the son of Ometeot, the brother of Quetzalcoatl, the source of all disease. Sounds very exotic. How exciting! And their celebration is better known among anthropologists as the flaying of men. Wait, you seem a little pensive. Oh, come on now, don't be racist. Diversity is our strength, after all. Now, the real enrichment begins with a ceremonial mock battle, with your naked ass tied to a giant ornate stone by the ankle, wielding a cute little wooden sword covered with feathers. See that? Your first glimpse of authentic native art. How inspiring. You are now about to defend yourself against one of the Tlaloc, which translates to the Cutter of Skins. He is a fully outfitted elite jaguar warrior wielding a sword that looks just like yours, but is instead made with razor-sharp obsidian. Now, this fight may not seem very fair, but it was never meant to be, for their gods demand a sacrifice. And if their thirst for blood is insatiated, the Aztec corn will not grow. What's that? That's not how meteorology works, you say? Oh, quit being so white, will ya? Jesus Christ. So, by now you most likely lost a duel, all broken and beaten down into submission, but very much still alive. Lucky you. So what's next? Well, this is when the real party gets started. First, your heart is carved out of your chest with a stone dagger, and while it's still beating, it is ceremoniously raised up high in the sky as an offering to the sun by the head priest named the Night Drinker, whose name is derived from when the rains fall more abundantly after sundown, due to much cooler temperatures. Very attuned with Mother Nature, these people. Next, a hollow wooden cane is thrust into your gaping chest cavity, like some oversized Capri Sun pouch, so that the sun itself can drink your blood. The act of sharing, a true sign of empathy. Now once she's had her fill, your body gets tossed down the long temple stairs like a meat slinky, breaking to pieces and bouncing head over heels, as one Spanish observer documented, and hopefully landing at the base of the temple, where the priest will then take great care into removing the skin from your bone and muscle in order to make one adorable onesie, and then dyed yellow to represent the golden robe worn by their patron god. The priests then take turns wearing your skin for a full 20 days, pitching mock battles with the young warriors who will try to rip chunks of your flesh off the holy wearers in order to prove their bravery. Also at this time, they accept gifts on behalf of Xipe himself. Kind of reminds me of Christmas. Over the next few weeks, your skin will dry, shrivel up, and symbolically fused onto the priest, but it will also begin stinking like dead dogs, as another Spaniard noted. And while your skin is being paraded around town, what happens to the rest of you, you may ask? Well, the priest and nobles alike will hold your severed head up high as they dance around in victory over your defeat in that totally fair fight that we had mentioned earlier. But after that, your skull will then be fastened to the walls of their temple, which may already be adorned by tens of thousands of other sacrificial victims. It takes a village, it really does. What's that? Not feeling quite enriched enough, you say? Well, how about this? One of your thighs will be made into a stew, cooked with peppers and tomatoes, and served on a bed of maize. You know, cuisines are the best part of every multicultural society. Of course, your other thigh will be reserved for the king's plate exclusively. A meeting with royalty now, what an honor! As for the femur left over from the boiled stock, it'll be used to craft your very own effigy, dressed in a sleeveless knotted cord jacket decorated in heron feathers, given a little mask, and nicknamed the God Captive. Congratulations, you've now been deified. Could all of this diversity get any better for you? Now bear in mind, not all of your blood had drained by the foot of the temple stairs when you made that little tumble. The rest will be collected in a large green bowl with a feathered rim, so that they may coat the lips of all the venerated statues, making sure that every honored deity gets a little taste. The type of equity and redistribution that any open borders Marxist can really appreciate. After the full 20 days of vibrant exotic ritual, the priests then go dancing, jumping, and stinking through the streets one last time before attending an exquisite banquet in your memory, with much singing and boozing, and what remains of your rotting flesh will be finally laid to rest, in a basket, buried in a cave, at the foot of the temple of Xipe Totec, the flayed one. And to think that those evil white people had denied you the opportunity of indulging in such a colorful ceremony from such a vibrant and enriching culture of color. But instead, you have to suffocate under the heavy, oppressive weight of democracy, the rule of law, free market capitalism, civil rights, modern medicine, refrigeration, sanitation, water, automobiles, the internet, Viagra.
So, now that you know that their harvesting ceremony requires the wearing of rotting human skins like some red carpet photo op,
which symbolizes the earth shedding away of past harvesting seasons in preparation of upcoming cultivating ones. So what?
So what? So, what are your thoughts on the upcoming carnage there, pro-tempore?
Well, I think it proves, once again, that indigenous people are more in tune with the natural world. And I'm certainly impressed with how accurate they are in calculating celestial events, let alone the seasons. Aren't you?
I think you're missing the point here!
Professor, I see what you're trying to do here, and it won't work.
Save lives?
We all know you're an outspoken bigot against vibrant cultural diversity.
Yeah, those that lead to total social breakdown with desperate police state resolution. Go on.
Professor, you may know of their ways, but you are totally ignorant of their reasons. And so you misinterpret Stanachka as merely feral primitives.
Oh, so not all human sacrifices are bad, huh? Some are rather vibrant and enriching?
Professor, I am not going to waste any more of my time arguing with some redneck who unfairly judges indigenous beliefs and practices through a Judeo-Christian bias.
Oh, yes! More of that cultural relativism, Babylogia! More of that noble savage trope! More of that invoking the ancestral spirits and the forces of Mother Nature exotica! More of that! I'm more worldly than ye flyover American hayseeds champagne socialist bullshit!
You finished?
No.
I'm gonna go now.
Oopsie! If you don't assist me in preventing thousands of our students from getting their hearts torn out with obsidian daggers, then I will call worldwide media attention to this. This is not cultural enrichment. This is a national emergency waiting to happen.
Oh, that's right. All this alarmism over the changes I'm permitting here, it's not because you want to keep it a white patriarchy or anything. No. But because you're a patriot who cares so much about our nation's founding principles.
Correct.
And one of our founding principles is freedom of religion, is it not, Professor?
Correct again!
But you want to prevent the Aztec from performing their skin-flaying ritual. Is that also correct?
Congratulations! You got the hat trick!
Ha! I knew it! Your civic nationalism is just white supremacy in disguise.
How the hell did you come to this conclusion?
Talaka Shipawalisli is a religious ceremony, which makes it protected under the First Amendment.
You're a retard! Our nation's freedom of religion principle is based upon John Milton's theory that every citizen's relationship with God is both personal and voluntary.
So
this Aztec ceremony doesn't qualify because ritualistic kidnapping and murder are infringements upon other citizens' rights.
Oh, you don't fool me, Triggerz. You're only highlighting those rituals that you think will outrage white people, in order to divert attention away from all of the atrocities and injustices that they committed.
Oh, here it comes, the great white diversion, right on cue.
Need I remind you how this country was built on slavery and genocide?
You're reminding me as if your chastising ever stopped. You know, it's funny how you should accuse me of holding a red herring here when this was your go-to rebuttal. Whenever labeling your critics as an hysterophobe didn't shut them up.
Beg pardon?
You pull this crap whenever we call attention to current social problems caused by select minorities. You wail, bitch, and moan about shit that white men did long before any of us were even born.
What crap are you talking about?
So wait, Islamic terrorism and caliphate armies are on the rise? Well, let's talk about the Crusades. Oh, the interstate gang violence is out of control? Well, let's talk about slavery. Wait, are the cartel members pouring over the border? Well, let's talk about Native American displacement.
Are you suggesting that those issues were not once important?
And if that doesn't work to quell the discussion, you just make shit up!
What?
MAGA terrorists, Klansmen cops, detention center kids in cages, all of it fabricated!
Jesse Smollett almost got lynched the other day. Are you going to tell me that he's faking it too?
And never mind your attitude towards our national crises, you also excuse third world intolerance and oppression whenever you can't blame it directly on Western colonialism.
What excuses?
Even if it affects those of whom you personally feel affinity towards, you don't care.
What oppression are you talking about?
Muslims throwing gays off of buildings, you don't care. Africans slicing and dicing little girl genitals, you don't care. Arabs enslaving blacks in Libya, you don't care.
I will not stand with you calling me a hypocrite any longer. This conversation is over.
Hey, before you go, let me ask you something first there, little Miss Social Engineer. In your lifelong pursuit of universal equality, don't you think that your willingness to make so many intersectional exceptions to every rule is what's truly compromising your cause far more than your mythical Chad Nazi boogeymen are?
Wait, hold up. Are you suggesting that I'm enabling more social problems than solving? Even more than a white supremacist?
Well, it is funny how you keep calling me a Nazi, but have you ever heard me apply your rationale to white supremacy?
What do you mean?
Well, let's take the antebellum South, for example.
What about the antebellum South?
Have you ever heard me say, well, slavery was just an integral part of their history and heritage?
Wow.
And in fact, necessary for their understanding of agriculture at the time.
You really got a set of balls on you, don't you?
Yes, the vibrant southern plantation owners of the early 19th century, technically a minority upon the world stage, were just merely sharing their native customs, values, and traditions with the peoples of West Africa.
Okay, that's it. I'm out.
A little cultural enrichment, if you will.
Goodbye, Triggerz.
Yep, so long! And thanks for all the politically motivated slander throughout the semesters.
And just where do you think you're going?
I'm walking away from all the soy, shill, and bat shit. And I'm taking all the frightened Mexican immigrants with me.
Oh, I'm afraid I can't let that happen, Professor.
And I'm afraid you're in no position to stop me.
I'm afraid you're wrong, Professor.
And I'm afraid you can kiss my ass.
You can't leave here.
Just watch me.
La 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 la. We shall overcome. Na 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 na. I wonder who that is.
Our campus...
Go on.
...is literally encased in a giant safety dome.
Toto's Africa for the closing credit song. I thought the Aztec were a Mesoamerican culture.
Oh, same difference.